you will write your family story, and then you will understand. And then, the last line of the book is, I am haunted by waters. And you think, I think that's such a great advice, because it's like, well, how do you get from this line to this line? What is the story that is driving you here? And I've tried to do that with all of my novels. Some of them were more successful than others. And while The Lonely Girl, I don't think is the greatest example of that device, I kind of had, a frame of mind of that. But Returning Home was exactly like that. I had that line in my head all the day. I mean, even my 21st birthday, my father sat me down to tell me the story that I never heard the likes of. And then the last line being, and I just forgot the line of my last book, but the essence of it is, when I look at my family, I have found my success, and that's when I know that I have come home. Okay, so it's how do you start here, and how does it get to the ending right here? What is that overall story? And it's the same kind of thing with sexting, because the guy narrating it is simple, love. Does anybody really know anything about it? And then the last few lines of the book is somebody taking a chance, and after they've had this tragedy in their life. So I like taking that kind of literary device in my novels. And it's usually one line that kind of inspires me, and then I'm off the races. The other part of the process is I'm a very musical person, so I always write to a soundtrack in my head. The first thing that I ever notice about film is not the opening scene. I always notice the score. I can always tell who probably wrote the score of the movie, because I grew up in a musical family. My dad was classically trained on the piano, and I started out that way. And my mother and other relatives have been classically trained singers, so music is kind of in the blood. And being a piano player myself, I tend to look at things from a musical aspect, and probably that's why my first novel had the metaphor the way it did. But I like hearing the score that kind of inspires you. One of the greatest scores, the most recognizable scores ever in film, is the Star Wars theme. Okay, and then you can always tell an aspect of John Williams' work in every other movie that he did, like Indiana Jones or Harry Potter or whatever. But I kind of take that same aspect of songs that I like, whether it's an actual score or it's rock music, and the things that inspire me. So I kind of write to them. And usually what I will do is I'll make a mix CD of the music that I think would be in this if it was a film, and I write to that. And I credit this to one of my favorite people in Hollywood that does this is Zach Braff, the actor from the show Scrubs.
Okay.
And the movies that he has done, Garden State and the last one they did, The Last Kiss. The musicians that he picks out and the soundtracks that he picks out for these films are very wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of do the same thing with my books, and that's usually what I'm listening to while I'm writing every day. And it helps get me into that mode for this story, because I think, okay, well, this song is very emotional, and it puts me in that mindset to write this very emotional scene. Because, with every writer, first thing you always do is you write from your heart. That's your first draft. Then you start writing from your head. And when you go back and start doing your revisions and writing your second and third draft and fixing things. But you have to be emotionally attached to it a little bit to write something great. And music is a great device for that. So it definitely helps me. And so I usually have an outline of the music already picked out before I start writing that book.
At this stage of your career, how do you view the progression of your writing?
Well, I think I've gotten better. Definitely a lot of things have changed since the first time I wrote a novel at 21, and now I'm about to be 32. I don't know if I've hit the greatest novel I've ever written, or I'm ever that I made it right. I don't know that yet, because I've still got a lot of books in me, and I'm not dead yet. I think I've gotten darker. I think I've gotten more real.
Mhm.
And I like tragedy. I mean, I very much like tragedy that doesn't always, books that don't always end on a happy note, and you're dealing with the things that make you unhappy. Because I think that's where you see the essence of true humanity. Because it's not about always how we are, as in our most happiest places. I always attribute to what Aristotle said, the aim of literature, the aim of art is to imitate reality. We hold the mirror up to nature, okay? And, to do that, we also have to see human beings in, a cathartic nature, dealing with social constraints that, come down on us and force us to do something that we never thought we were going to do. And, puts us usually into the bottom of the abyss and, where we're crying out for our salvation, and then, we have to crawl our way out. And it's those experiences that, give us not, a meaning of life, but, what Joseph Campbell said, the rapture of being alive. And that is the truest sense of humanity, of the human condition. So that's why I write what I do. But I like real life art and stuff too. I mean, the progression is trying to capture that with, different themes. And, each one of my novels, it's not the same thing. I mean, they're very different on their own, and I have different audiences for different books. And have yet to find a character that I want to write 18 sequels to.
Thank you for joining us today. We're sponsored by Starving Writers Books. Get a great book at a great price at starvingwritersbooks.com. And we're here today at the Billiard Den in Richardson, Texas, where you can find us at sneakypete.net.
Good. That's it.